What is up, dudes, dudettes, and everyone of the interwebs? Bloody Nugs here, aka the Gothic Gamer of LV1 Gaming here, with a wonderful guest that we have that I actually had the chance of sitting down to meet most recently at PAX East. We have Chris here from Radio of Horror. How's it going, man?
Hey, how are you?
Doing wonderful, doing wonderful. How's things been? How's everything been for you since PAX East?
Good. Just basically getting stuff posted. I was just playing Chernobylite. I just got an updated code from the people at that gaming studio that made Chernobylite because the code they were giving away at PAX or whatever. I guess a lot of them weren't working, so they gave me a PlayStation 4 code for free.
Oh,
so
awesome!
Just playing that
awesome.
and then working on editing some stories for the upcoming Vlada anthology.
Oh, interesting. So for, I was like, I actually have been playing Chernobylite myself. I actually recently got the next-gen version of that, so I've been enjoying that. Very interesting take on horror, especially when you look at the mystery of the whole, Chernobyl zone and how it's been kind of interpreted in a lot of games. I really like the way that they were kind of doing a story with it.
Yeah. It's relevant for today with the Chernobyl miniseries that came out, and of course now the war with Russia and the Ukraine.
Yeah, I was like, it definitely has brought a lot more attention back on all that. So for those who may not know, tell us a little bit about you. I know you've been running a horror show for a very long time, and then you mentioned the work that you're doing on Vlada, so let people know a little bit about that.
The horror show has been going on for 15 years this coming October, and it's called Radio of Horror, and we interview directors, actors, writers, producers, comic book people, book authors, toy makers, anything to do with like horror, sci-fi, or fantasy, but mostly strictly, most of the time it's horror related. And then the book and the graphic novel, comic book tie-ins, audiobook, and the short story collection is called Vlada, Dracula Tale. We gender swapped I gender swapped the cast of Dracula with my artist Ken Hunt, and he worked on the comic book as well. One of the two comic book tie-ins to the graphic novel, more like a prose novel, and then there's also an audiobook and a short film. But the entire cast of Dracula that you're familiar with, I got Dracula somewhere around here. Hold on, here we go. The entire cast of Dracula that you're familiar with, we gender swapped them in a unique way. And behind me in the picture is actually disappears. Some of the artwork from Ken Hunt. This is Castle Vlada behind me. So, and this is Christopher Lee's. This is Christopher Lee's actually Mego Dracula figure.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, I have him and Van Helsing. But our cast is all the characters that you're familiar with their genders flipped around. Van Helsing. A couple unique things is the fact that there's 3 grooms instead of 3 brides, and one of them's like one of every kind of flavor of the world. She has like a white husband, a black husband, and an Asian husband. And then thing is based on Gina Torres from Firefly.
Oh, interesting. That's
and then 2023 there'll be a spin-off novel coming out, spin-off character that separates herself from the Vlada story called Colleen. And she's got like, red spiky short hair, pixie cut, teen vampire apprentice of Vlada.
Okay, so she's an apprentice of Vlada.
She's the side character in the story I created, yes. Okay. Just to have it off. So, and then there's a short story collection coming out with a lot of the characters' backstory or how they got to where they are. Somebody actually wrote a story about like what Renfield was doing in the asylum while she was there, and somebody wrote a story about how did the husbands become the husbands. Because in Dracula's original novel, those brides do not have any backstory. Yeah, there's been movies like Dracula 2000 gives them a somewhat backstory, but he decided to write their story for them. Guy named Scott Baker, and it's going to be akin to like Michonne's zombies in The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Okay. So, very interesting take. I was like, so...
But not quite I use that as a very loose example. It's not going to be because she needs protection from other zombies or other vampires.
No, no, no.
It's just kind of an explanation about who those zombies were that hung out with Michonne. In the backstory of The Walking Dead's revealed that they were her lovers. She was pregnant with one of their babies, but she was in a poly relationship and living with both of her lovers. They got infected, and she couldn't give them up, so she chopped off their arms and mouths and kept them with her.
Yep. I was like, so it's a very interesting, it's a very unique way to make that take, especially since you're already doing so much with a universe. And I say universe in a very, very broad sense that a lot of people know. It's a story that a lot of people are aware of when it comes to the story of Vlad Dracula. So to be able to, one, flip the story by gender swapping, and then even going further to give a lot more story and a lot of background to characters that may have just been glanced over previously. Nice Dracula cup. You can definitely tell that it takes a lot more care and a lot of interest to want to expand that universe.
Yeah. It's kind of its universe on its own. I'm not ever going to say it's an entirely original idea, and people are always like, oh, well, there's Elizabeth Bathory, and I'm like, I don't care, and I don't know why you're making that point in that post. I don't care. That's honestly the only criticism. It's just like, oh, well, she's just Bram Stoker just ripped off Elizabeth Bathory. I'm like, yes, I'm sure there is like the legion of Elizabeth Bathory fans. You can count them on one hand compared to like how much Dracula merchandise is out there around Halloween time every year, and how much Elizabeth Bathory merchandise is out there. Zero. Nobody cares.
To be fair,
I do, and I respect it. I own Carmilla. I own. Carmilla might be the story as well that people always reference to me and whatever, and I own that book too, which is fine. But it's like, again, there's no Camilla, there's no Bathory merchandise as much as there is Dracula everywhere. Yeah. Today, or any comic book store, you're gonna find Dracula stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I was like, Dracula.
If it's a Tomb of Dracula by Marvel Comics, I guarantee you look hard enough, you will find something with Dracula at your local comic book store. You're not going to find half of the other, people that came before it. Why did this become so popular? I don't know.
Sometimes
maybe probably because of Bela Lugosi's movie. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. There was no Camilla movie. There was no Bathory movie. There was a stage play, and then there was that Universal film, and that Universal film kicked it off. Yes, there's Nosferatu as well. That came before. But even Nosferatu is not nearly as marketed as much as Dracula is.
Oh no, and you think that now as things have kind of come out over the years, especially understanding like vampires, you think that for Nosferatu, right? Look at the rise back in the 80s of Vampire the Masquerade. Nosferatu became a different type of vampire themselves from what we know traditionally as Vlad, Dracula, and the others.
Right, and Nosferatu is popular this year because it's the 100th anniversary of the motion picture coming out in 1922. Just like this is also the 125th anniversary of the publication of Dracula. So there's been a couple of Dracula celebrations. I've not been able to go. They're usually in the United Kingdom. There hasn't been anything here in the United States that I'm aware of. There did. I missed it. But I go to my own events, such as like Endless Nights, which is a gothic vampire ball put on by Vamp Fangs. That was an event I went to. But
man, Vamp Fangs are an amazing company. To be fair, I was like, I actually have a pair or a couple pairs of their teeth.
Yeah, I just got the new digital issue of issue 11 of the magazine. Julie Landau is on the cover.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know who that is?
To be fair, I was like, the name sounds familiar, but I can't pull it off the top of my head.
Her father was Martin Landau. Her father played Bela Lugosi in Tim Burton's Ed Wood, and she is best known for playing Drusilla on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, okay. I got you now.
Yeah,
wow.
So she's like born from a legacy of Hollywood, and she has created her own legacy of Hollywood. She's currently on the show Bosch, I think. I think that was the last thing I saw on her IMDb. So
interesting.
That's an Amazon crime show. I've never watched it. I like the actors in it, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and go through it. So
To be fair, I think I've heard a few things from some of my friends who've talked about it, but I can't recall off the top of my head. But that is an amazing legacy to come from, and to kind of be able to make your own in the space, which just kind of goes to show, where talent and everything else can kind of come into.
Yeah, no, I've met her before, and she's been on my show. I've talked to her online, and it's all good stuff. She's got some horror documentary about vampires coming out, and I think that's why she's on the cover. So, but I'm trying to get my own vampire thing, out there in a certain way. Passing around stickers and bookmarks and a free copy here or there at PAX East didn't hurt.
Oh, absolutely not. I was like, for those who are wanting to check out your comic, where can they find it?
You can actually get both the physical or digital version on Amazon right now. The digital the digital Kindle version just went live, so that's great. Finally, I'm a bit delayed on that, but also my Etsy store, Vlada, Dracula Tale. There's a ton of merchandise on there for the comic books, the graphic novel, a few different covers, some buttons and pins. Or just email me directly, thatradiohorror@gmail.com. But Etsy's probably the best place. Just type in Vlada Dracula Tale. It will pop right up. As well as a bunch of Dracula stuff, but you'll figure out, you pay attention, you can figure out which, obviously, one
which is the right
Etsy
story.
doesn't have like a clear link. Like, you can give somebody like a Facebook link to Vlada Dracula Tale, and it's facebook.com/Vlada Dracula Tale. But Etsy's got also these numbers and stuff like that. I can't figure that out.
Yeah, I like that's the one thing.
I just want a direct link that says etsy.com/Vlada Dracula Tale. That'd be so much easier.
It really would be. As I say, sometimes you think that some companies would take what's already been established and make it easy, and then other times they're just like, nah, we're just gonna do it this way.
But yeah, I mean, vampires have always been a big part of my writing creativity, going back to a stupid movie. I don't know how to turn off the background on this thing, but behind me there's a poster of Jim Carrey with Laura Hutton from Once Bitten. But another movie, it's Jim Carrey's first movie, by the way. And my podcast partner, Scott, and I covered it on the Vampire Movie Minute podcast, where we break down a vampire movie 5 minutes at a time. That's part of the Radio Horror Network, so that's part of the question that you asked me at the beginning. I do a few different podcasts, but that's one specifically I'll focus on right now. And that we covered Once Bitten. We had a bunch of guests on from the movie, and they basically all sang Jim Carrey's praise and stuff like that, which was very nice to hear. So I've always been a huge Jim Carrey fan. I love him in the Sonic movie, so it was really nice to hear. Everyone who worked with him originally was just like, Jim Carrey is one of the nicest people I ever worked with. Jim Carrey is going to go places. I knew he was going to become big. I don't know anything about anything bad I want to hear about Jim Carrey. I loved working with him. And it was so nice to hear all these people that still string his praises today. So that was really cool. I interviewed like 5 or 6 people from that movie. You know what I mean? And again, every person I had to bring up, what about Jim Carrey? So that was really nice. And then another vampire movie that I wouldn't say influenced Vlada in any way, but it was definitely like my exposure to sexy vampire women in some way, was a film called My Best Friend is a Vampire. Gregory Peck's daughter, Cecilia Peck, plays the vampire in the movie, who seduces and bites our young hero, who goes on a journey through the film becoming a vampire. And it's just cheeky 80s fun. Like Once Bitten, there's some stuff that does not hold up today. You can figure it out if you watch it, what does not hold up today.
Oh yeah.
It's still kind of funny, but I understand why people would get offended by a couple scenes in each one of the movie, but I'm not going to get into that here. But what influenced Vlada tremendously was like Castlevania. There's some references to Castlevania. I mentioned the thing about Firefly and Gina Torres just because I loved Gina Torres as Zoe on Firefly. She looks so hot. So.
Oh, I mean, Gina Torres is a beautiful woman. It's hard not to. And Firefly was such a good series. I was about to say, right. That whole cast is just amazing.
The film that influenced Vlada tremendously was Fright Night Part 2, the sequel to the original Fright Night, which starred Julie Carmen as Regine Dandridge, Jerry Dandridge's sister.
Oh.
So the original cast came back, and the movie, to this day, I still meet people who are like, I've never heard of that movie. I've heard of Fright Night. I've heard of the remake with Colin Farrell. I didn't know there was a sequel to the original. I'm like, yeah. and it's really good. It's cheesy sometimes, but whatever, it's the 80s, but it's really good. And the atmosphere reeks of the 80s in all of the best, like, punk, goth, hardcore horror ways. So, which we're getting right now in Stranger Things with, like, Freddy Krueger homages every 5 minutes. I'm not going to spoil
Right.
Stranger Things for people, but Robert Englund's in those trailers. Everyone knew that. So.
I mean,
But
you're
anyway,
not wrong.
Vlada, definitely, we borrowed some stuff from that movie and put it in the graphic novel, and I've been upfront about that, saying we totally borrowed that from Fright Night. Yes, of course I did. Nobody knows who owns Fright Night 2, by the way, so I don't think you got to get away with it. But there's a big difference between, like, taking something and putting it in print versus just ripping off a movie entirely in another movie. So,
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough.
yeah, but we are very upfront about it, and I have tweeted out to Julie Carmen, being like, "This is you. This thing is based on you and this character that you played," and she's been flattered about it. Or her people who answer her tweets on Twitter have been.
Absolutely excited for it, and that's something special, that when you're able to have that kind of interaction and have that support for what you're doing, and be able to do something as an homage to something that's so classic, and they still appreciate that it's still loved and appreciated even years later.
Yeah, totally.
But that's a lot of very interesting inspirations that you took for being able to use what went into Vlada and everything else, and a lot of very interesting inspirations for your characters and who kind of inspired them. One of the classic older comics, especially when you talk about sexy vampire women, I think that everyone knows is Vampirella. Classic.
Yes, yeah, totally. I mean, Vampirella is. I mean, she is still a vampire despite her being like an alien vampire. But yeah, no, that is another good example. I didn't take anything from Vampirella that I could think of. I mean, you could say, oh, well, my character has black hair, but whatever. A lot of vampires have black hair.
Traditionally. I say the only character that.
By the way, I decided to make the spin-off character a pixie redhead, pixie cut with red hair. And that's actually kind of an homage to Brian Polito's character Chastity.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll say because one
vampire assassin currently owned by Dynamite Comics. Fans don't like the Dynamite version. They wish the rights would revert back to Brian, but that's a whole other thing. But that was a vampire character I always loved, so I kind of homage her in that way. But she's actually got a haircut similar to one of the characters from My Best Friend is a Vampire, who's not a vampire. She's like just the regular high school girl who's the love interest of our main character. So, and I saw her. You're introduced to her in a dream sequence where she seduces our hero into the shower, and then he wakes up because a nun is chopping his dick off with a pair of scissors.
Ah, lovely. You're not wrong. A lot of vampires really do have the black hair. I would say one of the only
I know what you can do with like blue hair or something. I can make it punk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
I was like, the only real character that has any different colored hair was the main character from Blood Rain. I'd say she had that bright red hair too.
Yeah. I mean, Blood Rain's got bright red hair, so there's not like there had what's the name of the black woman who was in Vamp?
Oh,
Rich Jones.
There it is. Yeah.
Rich Jones also has a wig of red hair. I haven't watched that movie since I was a kid. I got to give that movie another watch because I have not watched that movie since I was like 11 years old, and I didn't love it then. But many years later now, in my twilight years, I will definitely watch it.
Yeah, it's just like maybe things are a little bit better. Maybe you can appreciate it a little bit more. To be fair,
yeah,
I think that
totally.
And I feel like that's one of those things, is that some films that you watch when you're younger or at a different time, you're not able to really appreciate it, and then later on you really can. And I think that's probably one of those cases where you're able to appreciate that a lot more.
Right, totally.
All right. Well, I know that you're short on time here because I know you got to get ready to go. But before we head on out of here, where can people find you at, real quick?
Like I said, the Vlada Dracula Tale on Facebook, or Radio of Horror on Facebook. I also have Twitters at Christy SAV. Radio of Horror, you kind of type it in on Google, you'll find all the different social media pages for it. Or shoot me an email about Vlada if you want to copy that, radioofhorror@gmail.com. depending on when this airs, I don't know who's coming up on Radio Horror soon, but one of my podcasts, we're going to be having a bunch of people from the old sci-fi show Alien Nation on the show.
Oh, I actually watched Alien Nation.
By the way, one of the people, the person who created it, it's called the Dead TV Podcast. We talk about canceled television shows, and one of the people who's coming on is the creator of Alien Nation. However, he also created the Bionic Woman, V, and the Incredible Hulk TV series.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
So he is like sci-fi television royalty. I mean, he created 5 of the most prolific television shows in the history of science fiction.
Wow, that's actually awesome. So I'm definitely going to be listening to all that.
Yeah, that'll be great to talk to him coming up soon. And Alien Nation, by the way, is very relevant to today. If you've never seen the show or seen the movie with James Caan, I highly recommend watching it.
Oh, I agree with that.
Think of the heat of the night, but instead of black people, it's aliens.
Yep, very much. And I was like, and I agree with that completely. I'm in the exact same boat. Alien Nation was completely like, it was relevant then, it's relevant now, and it was completely underappreciated.
It's so relevant now. It's so, I think, powerfully relevant to today.
Absolutely. Well, guys, y'all heard them. Check out Radio of Horror. Either look for the podcast. You can find them at radioofhorror.com. And, of course, make sure you go and follow them at Radio of Horror on Twitter. All of their socials will be down below. So make sure you go check them out. And especially go check them out on Facebook and everything else if you want to see their story for Vlada, if y'all are interested in the vampires. But thank you so much for taking the time with me for a bit here, Chris. I was like, so thank you to everyone else. I was like, but until next time, guys, y'all take it easy. And remember to show them love. And remember, you can always level up here at level 1. Till next time, peace out and check y'all later, guys.